Welcome back. In the first part, we covered the first two algo trading topics using the famous tree swing cartoons to help us. So now let's move on. How the algo trader fixed bugs and issues. This image illustrates what might not be the best way of fixing the bug that we talked about in the previous part. Take time and care when you code initially, but also when you rectify bugs. Keep the code clean and understandable. Don't put in place a quick and nasty workaround just because it was the quickest way of putting the bug right. As soon as your code becomes unintuitive, it will cause all sorts of problems in the future when you return to the code. You might come back after a year, and if you're faced with this kind of thing, you won't be able to remember why you did it this way in the first place, and you might not even be able to interpret the logic that's being used. Trust me, when you revisit code after a period away from it, you won't properly remember the rationale you initially used to code the logic the way you did. So keep things tidy and do them in the best way possible. I always try to take the approach when writing code that if someone who's never seen your code before was looking at it, would they be able to easily understand it and be able to work on that code if necessary? Putting in place quick workarounds in your code also means that your code probably isn't as efficient as it could be and will be taking up significantly more processor resources than necessary, potentially causing performance issues. How choosing the wrong broker affected your algo system. So we move on now to our fourth image. This is what might happen if you choose to use the wrong broker. Believe me when I say that all brokers are not equal. I know I've been bitten in the past when I've made decisions to go with certain brokers not fully understanding what their business model was. There are a couple of really important things you need to investigate thoroughly before ever signing up with a new broker. The first is regulation. You have to be happy that your hard-earned capital is going to be safe. You therefore need to go for the best possible regulation. If your broker is regulated by some authority on a far and distant island, you need to consider yourself if you think that regulation is going to be as robust as it could be. And that's a decision that you have to make. Secondly, and even more importantly, you need to determine if the broker's objectives are aligned with your objectives. And you'd be surprised about how many traders don't even consider this. So for example, if the broker isn't a true broker and all they're doing is taking the opposite side of every trade that you open, what does this mean? It means that when you lose, they win. And when you win, they lose. Now, does that sound like alignment of objectives? Do you think that your broker only makes a profit if you lose money? Sounds like a great idea. I don't. So where does Darwinex stand on these two issues? Well, firstly, they're regulated by the UK FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, one of the most respected regulators in the world. Furthermore, retail traders are protected by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. On the second point, Darwinex doesn't take the opposite side of your trades. Trades get passed through to the markets, so Darwinex operates as a proper broker of those trades. And furthermore, in terms of alignment, it is absolutely to the advantage of Darwinex for all traders on the platform to perform to their best. Because the primary business model for Darwinex is not to be a broker at all, it's to allow talented traders to attract investor capital. And if traders don't perform well, then the Darwinex business model simply won't work. So there's actually perfect alignment between the trader's objectives and those of Darwinex. How the algo trader over-leveraged. If you don't have a huge amount of disposable capital for your trading account, it can be quite difficult to make a living from, say, a 20 to 30% return. Because of this, traders often then start to over-leverage. The position sizes they start to risk on trades is so high that the chances of destroying your account increase considerably. If you saw my episode last week, you'd have seen this illustration of how a perfectly good system that generated good returns with low drawdowns under appropriate leverage could still end up losing everything when excessive leverage was used. But as I said last week, there's another alternative. Instead of over-leveraging just to try to make enough return, a far better approach is that provided by the Darwinex model. Here, talented traders can attract investor capital and charge success fees for the profit they achieve on that investor capital. This provides the opportunity to make a good living while keeping your leverage sensible. For more information, check out the Darwinex website. There's a link right below in the description. So click top right now to go to the final part of today's episode, where I'm going to be looking at the next 3 topics.